loving our animals so much, the first thing we want to do is relieve any um anything that's making them uncomfortable or painful. And we may in a traditional conventional medicine, they may be given a steroid or an antibiotic to just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. And if I don't see it, then it's not there. That is not true. That in the long run shuts down the immune system. So when we give something that appears to make something just disappear and they're better really fast, that is not true healing, because literally what happens is that gets pushed down, whatever it is, whether it's an infection, um, gosh, a thyroid imbalance. There's so many things.
This is True Voice Unfiltered, the podcast where raw truth meets real transformation. I'm your host, Daria Anne, ghostwriter, content strategist, and holistic health warrior. No, I'm not a doctor, nurse, nutritionist, or any kind of medical professional, and this show does not dispense medical advice. I'm just an informed patient sharing what I've learned on my own healing journey. I also interview accomplished authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, and functional medicine practitioners who are transforming lives. If you're ready to break free from the sick care system, reclaim your health, and transform your life, you're in the right place. Let's get unfiltered.
Debbie Criddle, welcome back to True Voice Unfiltered.
Hi, Daria. It's good to be here.
I love our interviews, Debbie, but for anybody who hasn't maybe listened to our previous two interviews, I just want to give you an opportunity to kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we will get into today's topics.
Okay, sure. Um, well, the animals have taught me so much about my own healing over the last 30 plus years. Um, a lot of dead end roads as far as traditional and conventional
Mm.
methods and systems. And so I've always had a connection with animals, always, since I was very, very young. And then I started actually working with them on a different level, and they just brought so much information to me and healing for myself, that then it became kind of like um I went into my primary work is with animals and was with animals for a long time. So it's been a very reciprocal relationship in many ways, my work with animals and their work with me. So that's a little bit of the background.
Talk. Yeah, and so Debbie, you're the owner of Happy Tales Custom Blends, and these are vibrational blends. So can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes. Okay. So in nature, whether it's plants or anything with a high, everything has a frequency, everything has a vibration. You can take those vibrations through different instruments and capture that frequency and then put it into a blend. And so in some ways this is what is referred to as homeopathy, but this actually goes beyond just traditional homeopathic remedies. This is working with frequency. And so when you take a frequency and you give it to, whether it's an animal or a person, they receive that frequency or that vibration on a much higher level in the whole body, mind, spirit than just the physical level. So most conditions or emotional states start much higher up than just the end point of the physical body. And so that's why this is truly holistic healing, in that we're addressing the consciousness of where it started, and then it trickles down, and the last place it hits is the physical. So we have to address the physical as well, but we want to just like clear the belief or the whatever it is that caused the original condition or inharmonious state. And for animals, that could be fear, could be aggression, could be trauma, could be shock. So that's why working on that level is so important, because you might have a dog that had an injury from a trauma or a shock. You give something very specific for the physical injury of the body, but the shock is still laying in there. So We want to
Mm.
clear that. And this is why frequency medicine or vibrational blends are so effective. It works so much higher up. That's the best way I can
Yeah.
explain how frequency works.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know in one of our first interviews, we talked about how our animals kind of absorb our energy too. So when we're sad, if we're grieving, if we've been in an accident, if something traumatic happened, they just sponge that all up, right? And so we want to make sure that we're really taking care of them. And
Absolutely. And on that note, I want to add something really important, and that is that yes, our animals pick up our emotional states, our mental states. Um, on the flip side of that coin, they pick up our joy and our happiness and our truthful, I'm going to call it our truthful knowing. So when we have an animal that is compromised in some way, one of the most necessary but hardest things for us to do is see this animal in their perfection, see them healed, see them as their true joyful being. And the animal will pick up that mirror from us. I mean, this could go
incredible.
really esoteric. We can literally
Yeah.
feel our animals from meditation. That's pretty advanced. Maybe we'll have that in a different.
Absolutely. I definitely want to delve into that more in a future episode, Debbie. That is so fascinating to me. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about, well, I guess one of the first things I wanted to bring up was a lot of people deal with this too when their pets have recurring symptoms, like they have skin issues and they're constantly scratching, or maybe they have digestive issues. I mean, we're seeing a lot. I don't know if I'm going to say the name of this right, the Ridlin beagles that were rescued. And I've seen a lot of videos where a lot of them are still so, poor things are still so traumatized. And I just brought that up just because that's a recent thing in the news, and I'm so
Sure.
happy that most of them got freed. But that's just an example of dogs that have been traumatized that are expressing these recurring symptoms. Why do you think these symptoms are not random?
Um, I don't think that symptoms are random because they're always speaking a message from the body. Okay, so it's not like older dogs just get arthritis. Well, why are they getting arthritis, and why does it happen to most dogs? So again, we're looking at this from a much different level than just accepting what has commonly happened or occurred, meaning random symptoms. Okay, so it's a message from the body that something's out of balance.
Mm.
Why is it out of balance? Not just what can we give to stop that symptom from happening. We need to step back and examine the environment, examine the food, examine all the things that we've talked about, but also what is the body saying, and where do we really need to focus our energy. And one of the main things is the immune system because it controls so much of why things are out of balance. So they're not
Yep.
random in just that, okay, well, that's going to happen, to a dog or a cat at a certain age. It just happens. No,
Yeah. Well, that's the allopathic model.
we
Yeah.
have a lot more control
Yeah.
over what's going on with awareness by listening to these symptoms. So they're not random. There's a reason that they are speaking so loudly through the body.
Yeah. I think that's the allopathic model that you just described. It's like, let's just chase symptoms, like even with humans. And I've been through that myself instead of like, you just assume, oh, well, you're getting older, your labs are normal when they're not, nothing we can do for you. Like they don't deal with root causes like you do on all these different
Absolutely.
levels with the
Absolutely.
animals. Yeah. Um, so speaking of symptoms, so let's talk about the difference between chasing and suppressing symptoms and actually restoring balance in our pet, whether it's a dog, cat, or horse.
That is a wonderful question because in our loving our animals so much, the first thing we want to do is relieve any um anything that's making them uncomfortable or painful. And we may in a traditional conventional medicine, they may be given a steroid or an antibiotic to just get rid of it, just get rid of it. And if I don't see it, then it's not there. That is not true. that in the long run shuts down the immune system. So when we give something that appears to make something just disappear and they're better really fast, that is not true healing because literally what happens is that gets pushed down, whatever it is, whether it's an infection, um, gosh, a thyroid imbalance. There's so many things, but let's just talk about infection because yeast infections, bacterial infections, these are
Mhm.
really common things. If we just give something like an antibiotic, they are necessary at a very certain point, life or death situations, but often they're given out like candy. And
Yeah.
what happens with that is it gets pushed down deeper, literally into the tissues of the body. It may just look like it clears it from the surface, and the animal is so much better. Their energy's back, they're bright, but it's temporary. It's very temporary. It's a suppression of the symptom. And then it just makes it even harder when you keep doing repeated rounds of antibiotics and or steroids and other medications. We push it down into
Yeah.
the body. It's like we don't want to see it. We don't want to know that we just don't want to look. If they're fine, then they're great. But that's not holistic healing where we're looking at the whole animal, at the emotional, the physical, the mental, the environment, everything. But we're also working with the body in a way that it can receive um, vibrational blends or at certain points herbs, certain things that it knows what to do with, and it works like a symphony. It works together to rebalance. Why is that infection there? Where is it in the body? And so that is the difference between like chasing symptoms and suppressing them and really restoring balance. And maybe for the first time, a lot of the animals that I've worked with, because we went this holistic, pensive, longer term route, they were restored to balance like they never even had been since they were a puppy.
Amazing.
We see that a lot.
That's amazing. Now, Debbie, do you recommend, in addition to these vibrational blends, like when someone has an animal that's not well and you create a vibrational blend for them, are there also lifestyle changes that need to take place, like in their environment, maybe their food, water? I've been using Crystal Geyser since our interview. By the way, Charlotte and I have been drinking that. But I'm just curious
Wonderful.
if all of these things need to work together to really
They do.
achieve total wellness. Yeah.
They do. They absolutely do. And just off of the top, like the core things would be pure water,
Yeah.
not tap. Most of the tap water around the world now is not real water. It's very
Terrible. Yeah.
compromising.
Yeah.
So the pure water, okay, and then diet, and then environment. And when we say environment, there's a lot that we could go into there, but is the environment clean? Is it free of toxins and chemicals to the best of one's control? We can't control a
Yes.
lot of it, but you know what? We can control quite a bit of it right in our own homes and yards where our animals reside. So
Mhm.
cleaning up um, chemicals, whether they're household cleaning chemicals, personal care chemicals, um, fabric softener, laundry we're surrounded in them if we're using conventional ways most of the time. And it's
Mhm.
not because we're trying to do that. It's just the way things are.
This is
You really have to be conscious. You have to be conscious about your choices.
Yeah, and the good thing now is there's so many recipes online too. You can make your own cleaning products or you can even buy
Absolutely.
cleaning products and they're not really that expensive. There's a lot of good brands out there that use clean ingredients. Like I said, or you can make your own. I have a friend who makes her own cleaning products with vinegar and a few other things, and it's
Yes,
so much
we do.
safer for everybody.
We
Yeah.
do too. And speaking of that, um, we just created a blog post yesterday on making your own flea and tick spray
Oh,
with
wow. Okay.
essential oils. So that is on the blog. Anybody can just go and read that recipe and make their own spray. I will say though, if there's already a flea or tick problem, you're gonna need to do more than that. And there's a link to a post that talks about what you need to do if there's already a problem. But if it's just prevention, you can go use
Oh,
that
awesome.
DIY spray.
Well, I'm gonna after this interview, that's where I'm going, and I'm gonna make some for Charlotte because now it's summertime here in Florida, and the fleas are gonna be a big problem soon.
Absolutely.
So,
That's why the post
yeah.
came out now because we're in the season. So
Yeah. And I want to remind everybody that your website is happytales.tips. So you can go there to find that. And all of your wonderful blogs are so educational. I love that. Debbie, just kind of, this isn't really a side note. It's something I thought of as you were talking a minute ago. We hear a lot about the microbiome, in humans, like with antibiotics and how they're so destructive to the microbiome. Does that apply to animals too? Like, do they have a microbiome and is that affected by the medications and other things we give them?
absolutely, 100%. They need to
Okay.
have a balanced microbiome as well. So
Okay.
we can balance that to a large degree by the proper diet, by a biologically
Yeah.
appropriate diet. But sometimes if there has been a lot of medications given, we need to do more than just the diet. We actually need to put back that biome. So they are just as prone to that flora and fauna going out of balance as we are.
Yeah, that's so
So
interesting.
we
It's
can
so
use a
interesting to
few
me. Yeah.
blends to do that.
Mhm.
Once in a while, we also give fermented foods because animals' bodies, just like us, we it knows what to do with food. We heal through food.
Okay.
So
So, what's an example of some fermented foods that would be safe to give a dog or a cat or horse?
yogurt,
Yogurt, okay.
kefir,
Like plain Greek yogurt, or does it
yes,
specific
and
kind?
again, as we always talk about, we have to look at the ingredients.
Yes, we do.
We
Yes.
really you don't want to give them sugar. You do not want to
Nope.
give them yogurt flavored with sugar. So yes, like a just a plain good sourced Greek yogurt and or kefir. But a lot of the kefir these days has, instead of it being a healthful drink, now it's flavored with so many things that it counterbalances why what kefir is. So just read your labels and give them things that are just what the ingredient is, just what you're after. These live cultures, and we're going to
Yeah.
do a post on how to do that. So that will be
Oh,
longer
great.
in length on what to choose or what to actually make yourself, for yourself and but for your animals to rebalance that gut microbiome over. You need to do that for a while to basically reseed it for some months. But we will do a comprehensive blog on that.
Excellent. I look forward to that. I mean, I'm just thinking as you're talking, like there's so many landmines out there that we have to be aware of between food, water, medicine. It's just
Right.
it's a crazy world. So we have to control what is under our control. Um, and which is one of the many reasons I bring you back, Debbie, because we all love our animals and we want to make sure. And it's so sad that it just seems like they're not living as long as they used to, I think because of all these problems that we're talking about. But there are things that we can do. And I'm so glad you have these wonderful
Absolutely.
products and the
Absolutely.
blogs. So, have you ever had a situation where somebody, maybe their dog or cat or whatever, maybe they noticed they were acting differently, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly what was going on? Maybe they weren't actually sick outwardly, but something was going on. Have you ever dealt with more subtle, I guess, conditions in animals where it was hard to pinpoint exactly what was happening?
Absolutely. And that's really when somebody comes to me that is saying, something's off here, but I'm not sure what it is. It's a really great place to start because it means that the symptoms haven't manifested so far that then you begin to see a lot of compromisation, which can still be absolutely turned around. But it does take longer. But the point is you're allowing this animal to maintain their well-being and still catch it before they're more compromised. So
Yeah.
those types of symptoms could be things like, they're just slowing down. Their energy isn't quite the way it used to be. There's a dull look in the eye, almost like, I mean, animals go through depression. They literally, from physiological chemicals, toxins, everything we've talked about, environment, emotions, shelter animals, shock, trauma, all these different things,
Oh,
they
yeah.
they will lose that spark in their eye as well, and it will just be kind of a flat, but you don't know what it is. It's like, what is, you're not sure what it is, but you know something's off.
Yeah.
So that is the time when we want to begin a protocol. Balance their immune system, give them a flower essence for their emotional state. And maybe their guts off a little bit, like you're just noticing maybe their stools smell really bad, or they have gas and they didn't have that before, but you changed food a couple times and it seems to change, but then it doesn't really stay. And then it's, this
Yeah.
whole thing that we observe. Those are the beginning signals that we want to pay attention to. And we want to trust our intuition that something's not quite right here. And even though you don't have a name for it and you can't totally identify it, that's the perfect time to just even start a foundational protocol, which is going to help clear the body out, open up the detox pathways, strengthen the immune system, and bring some flower essences in to help with the mental emotional state.
Yeah. Now, I know we talked about this before, Debbie, but definitely bears repeating vaccines, right? If you adopted, whether you get a dog or a cat from the shelter, they're going to come vaccinated, whether it's rabies, whatever they're giving them, right? And I understand parvo is a horrible virus that can kill puppies. I get that. But what are some things that we can do since we don't have control over what your county requires in terms of vaccines?
Right.
What can people do afterwards to sort of mitigate, to keep the good and get rid of any of the harmful effects of
We can
vaccines?
do detox blends specifically to clear the residue from vaccines.
That's
And
awesome.
that's another one of these hidden things that it's cumulative over time. And then we wonder why a tumor appears at 5 years old.
Mhm.
We wonder, nothing seemed to have happened. And all of a sudden now, why are they having these labs come back? Um, so vaccinations are something we want to clear from the body and avoid if possible. Um, and use titers to check the antibodies in the body to see if they even need a vaccine. Or
Yeah.
we can use nosodes, and those are homeopathic nosodes that provide the antibodies that we're trying to achieve through traditional vaccines. So there are lots of options.
And where can you order how do you get homeopathic no-sodes? Do you have to work with a professional or can
You can
you?
either go to a homeopathic vet,
Mhm. Okay.
and again, clarification is not just a holistic vet, a
Right.
homeopathic vet, and or we also do nosodes. We don't do titers, but we do nosodes at Happy Tails.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, and then those measure how the antibodies in the animal system? Is that how that
The
works? Or
the titer is a blood test, and that is done at a vet.
okay,
Holistic, you probably possibly get it done at a holistic vet. That doesn't have to be a homeopathic vet. That will measure the antibodies in the body as to the specific vaccine that you're considering or for protection.
right.
So,
Like, so it'll tell you how protected your dog is from rabies, just as an
yeah, if
example. Yeah.
you even need
Yeah.
the vaccine at all, and typically when young animals are vaccinated the first 12 months of their life, generally that's all they need for their entire life,
Mhm. Yeah.
generally.
Yeah.
So you can measure those antibodies in the body every year and see if they actually need something. And it would cost probably less than the vaccines themselves. Plus, you don't need to clear the residue from the
Right.
vaccines that are so detrimental.
Yeah. No, it's concerning because in my county, they give them a 3-year rabies vaccine. So imagine it's a puppy too. I mean, and they don't, there doesn't seem to be a distinction between like a 10-pound dog and a 100-pound dog. They seem to all get the same dose, which is crazy to me. Like,
Right.
you're overwhelming a little puppy.
Absolutely.
And so, so I think most people are probably in the same boat where you don't really have control. I mean, I would have loved to have adopted my dog without that, but there was no way I
Right.
was taking her home. So I think I'm happy to know that there are things we can do on the other side, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people listening to this are going to be like, "Well, I didn't have a choice. My dog or cat came this way." But the choice you can make
Absolutely.
now is to mitigate things with the products that you offer, which is
You can
awesome.
clear the residues out of the body, and then from
Hmm.
here on out, consider titers. Or
Yes.
if you have a strictly indoor animal, they're really not, you know, at risk if it's an animal that's out in the world a lot and subject to a lot of other things. I mean, all
Right.
animals need to get outside, but depending on your living situation, are you, remote and your animal's not in contact with other animals? Are they, that's a whole
Right.
different scenario. So there are
That's a
lots of
good
things
point.
we can do depending on what the situation is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Okay. And I want to get back to something else you mentioned. So speaking of, when you take your dog for a walk and you have to pick up after them, what should a stool like? What should a healthy stool look like? I know this is kind of gross, but it's an important measurement of health. So
Absolutely. Okay. So most stools, if we're feeding a traditional kibble diet, they're going to be huge. And we don't know this until we see the contrast, okay? But
uh,
and they're usually really stinky because the body is really not made cooked food at high temperature, rancid oils, carbohydrates. Animal's body doesn't know what to do with that. And so the stools and even the gas, it's very odoriferous and they're very
yeah,
large. Now, when you transition to a biologically appropriate diet, you will see that the stools will become much smaller because the body's actually integrated the nutrition and it's not
right.
pooping out the fillers, but you won't see that till you make the change. You won't even notice that anything's wrong because you'll think that's just normal. So it's great that we're talking about the contrast here. So a
Yeah.
normal stool should be formed, should not be
Hmm.
loose, should not be it should just be like a light to medium brown formed stool that also doesn't knock you over. Okay.
Right.
It's gonna
I'm
have to
smiling
low.
because my dog's stools match that description, so I'm very happy. But I cook her food. I make like the stews you mentioned on our last interview that like stews are good for them, and we talked a little bit about food, and so I give her real food. So, um,
Excellent.
it makes me happy that yeah, I've always been able to
You
pick
see
up
the
after
difference
her.
though?
Yeah, well, I have never given her kibble, but
Right.
Willow, in the beginning, I didn't know better, and then I started giving her real food maybe about a year or two into it. So yeah, that's interesting now that I think about it. They did get better with real food and solid, easy to pick up. So
Absolute and
yeah,
solid. Easy to pick up. Yeah, it shouldn't stick to the ground.
yeah,
And I probably have not had one person that did not switch to an appropriate biologically appropriate diet that did not say, "They're not going to the bathroom very much." And I said, "Good. That's normal. They're not pooping out filler anymore." And they're like,
great.
"Oh, really?" And it's the same with cats. You'll notice that while we're on the topic of stools, cat
Yeah.
stools can be very odoriferous.
Oh
And
yeah.
when you start feeding them an appropriate diet, it's not that it doesn't smell at all, but you will notice a big change just in how the stool smells and, of course, the size.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So, what would be a good appropriate diet for a cat? Like, if you were going to make your cat food, I haven't had a cat in such a long time, but Um, I don't think we talked about cat food before, Debbie, because we see the little cans of, fancy feast. I mentioned a brand, but not picking on a specific brand. We see the canned
But that is
food,
true. Yes.
we see the dried
Okay.
cat food. So talk to us a little bit about that. Yeah.
So this is a great question. So cats are like 90% carnivores. Okay. Dogs are
Interesting.
omnivores, meaning they eat plants and protein, plants
Yeah.
and carnivore. cats, if you just look at the structure of their teeth, it's different than a dog. Okay. They are meant to kind of tear and pull carnivorous food. So they need a
Yeah.
much higher content of pure animal protein than a dog with eating plants, fruits, and animal protein. So as far as making your cat's food, I mean, you could literally rotate between, and there are guidelines around this too. Chicken, literally cut up fresh chicken breast, beef, but I say this with caution. You do not want to just go buy ground beef from the store. It usually has dye in it to keep that red color.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
So you do not want to give them that dye, and it's often been pumped with certain chemicals. That's typically what hamburger from the store is. So what you want to do is buy real pieces of meat and have the store grind them for you or cut them up for you, or I mean, or you can cut them up for your
Yeah.
animal at home. So you can rotate between chicken, beef. You can you want to give them raw. That's what they're used to eating. You want to give them all of these things raw.
Mhm.
But what's important too is that you can do freeze dried raw, and that will give them the organs, the glands, the bone that you aren't necessarily dealing with in your kitchen. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's almost like giving them a portion of the freeze dried with fresh raw. It's very simple, but it really doesn't, the diet doesn't get any better than that. Meaning they're getting fresh, raw food, and they're getting their bones, glands, and calcium from an already pre-made raw food that's not raw, it's freeze-dried raw, which holds those
Mhm.
nutrients in there. So a combination of the 2, and we do have a blog on how to feed. It's in the Happy
Oh, that's
Tales
great.
blog, and it will explain more details about that.
Okay, happytails.tips. Again, I'm going to put the name of the website out there. That's wonderful. Yeah, you have so many educational blogs. But Debbie, where can people get freeze-dried raw food if they wanted
Um,
to?
it really depends on the source. So read the blog because it will give you some ideas on what to look for in the
Okay.
ingredients.
And it's something they can order online though and have shipped as
Yes.
versus okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. There's
Okay.
just certain parameters you want to look at as far as what's in the food. And we have that outlined. So
Awesome. Now, have you ever had a situation where somebody comes to you and they're like, "We've tried everything." Have you ever had a situation where it seemed like the animal wasn't going to turn around and like share that? Tell us a little bit about that.
okay. Yes. In fact, I get a lot of those where they're done with the traditional system. They've even tried some alternative things and they don't the animal may be just declining and declining and declining. And so they thought I'm just going to try this. So um some of those scenarios we have completely turned the animal around over time. And the thing is with holistic healing, it's not like saying, oh, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take months and months. Yeah, the integrated healing will, but you'll begin to see results almost immediately. You'll know something is different. Something has changed. I want to keep doing this. For those animals where it was too far, the body had deteriorated too far, what were able to do though was to support them through flower essences, through certain homeopathics, through certain frequencies that allowed the time that they had remaining to be very comfortable in their body
Like
and
palliative
prepare
care,
them.
then. Yeah.
Yes,
Like
I have
palliative care
hospice.
almost. Yeah. Yeah.
I have hospice blends on the website
Oh,
that also
yeah.
prepare the animal for, we call it crossing the rainbow bridge. I have a rainbow bridge blend. Um, and that is more for the emotional body, but because often there's fear, they're worried. They're worried about leaving their person. I mean, animals,
Mm,
we're their caretakers, but they're our caretakers, okay? And they know and they feel. So, but we have pain blends. We have things that can support this animal and make them as comfortable as they can be these last days or weeks or even months. So there's always something that can be done. There's always something that can
yeah.
be done.
Now that's amazing. That's really comforting to know that too. I wanted to ask you, are you able to actually communicate with an animal, like when you see one through a picture or when you're meeting an animal patient in person? Are you able to actually communicate with them? It seems like you're very
I
connected. So
you know,
yeah,
it happens so organically that
yeah,
I would not call myself an animal communicator, but it's more subtle than that, but yet I feel the animal more than getting information about the animal, if that makes sense. I'm not
yeah,
I don't work in the let's say the psychic realm where I'm looking for information. What happens is what comes through me is it's almost like what do they need for their well-being? And the animal through their photograph or Zoom or video. Videos really help me. I will just get a sense of what they need to reestablish harmony and to reestablish balance. So when I communicate with them, I'm not actually looking for information from a like a physical realm. It's more what light do they need? What do they need to reestablish themselves? And it's not a question I even ask. It's something that just comes in when I connect with them. So it's very different how it works for me, but that is how it works.
that's a gift though, and it seems very intuitive. It's just such a
It
what a
is.
wonderful gift
That's the
to have.
main
Yeah,
that's the primary word.
yeah, that's amazing. Do you ever deal with on the human side of things, like how do you help people not feel guilty, like if they've been maybe partially the cause, even if it's unintentional, of their dog or cat or
Absolutely.
animal like feeling stressed out? Like how do you counsel people when you're working with an animal and their owner?
Sure. Well, I try to explain that the relationship is mutual. Okay. We are actually, yes, we are learning amazing things from them. They are mirrors for us. They are healers for us. But ideally, we are doing the same thing for them on a human level. So, because life does happen, as we've said multiple times in the interviews, life happens. And so what the animals bring us through their reflecting back to us is not blame and it's not guilt, but it brings us to a greater awareness of ourself, meaning, is this what I'm projecting? Am I constantly projecting negativity? How can this help me become a better person? How can this help me become more spiritual and less attached to my emotions because my animal is showing me? So
Yeah.
it really, we can't take it personal. We have to kind of rise above just immediately going to guilt. Like, oh my God, I caused this. No, you came together in relationship to learn from each other. And hopefully within this process, they're bringing you to a greater awareness of yourself. And in that greater awareness of yourself, you're going to lift them because now you're connecting with this gets very deep, but you're now connecting with your joy because your animal showed you a mirror
Yeah.
of something you needed to heal within yourself. So then as we rise, they feel us. And ideally, we lift them up by where are
Yeah.
we focusing our energy? Where are we focusing our mental and emotional body?
Yeah.
Animals
Oh,
will
that's
tell
so
you.
beautiful. I love that. That's so beautiful. I just love animals. This is going to sound off the wall, but this question just occurred to me. So, I had a rescue dog several years ago, Rosie. She was a sweet little pitty mix. She was rescued from Puerto Rico after they had that horrible hurricane. I think it was back in 2017. I didn't get her till 2019. She spent some time at a humane society. This dog was very understandably like terrified. I mean, absolutely terrified of thunderstorms. Like she would shake like a leaf,
Right.
and I tried all kind. I would sit in the closet with her because that was like the only thing that seemed to calm her down. But
Yes.
now I have another pity mix now, Charlotte. Now she hasn't been through any kind of trauma that I'm aware of. She came from the shelter. Couldn't care less. Like she'll notice if it's thundering outside,
Yes.
doesn't care. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like why are some dogs so freaked out and other dogs don't seem to care about thunder?
Um, that is very, very true. Meaning you could have a completely different constitution and animals,
Mm,
constitution. It does depend on their past, but not totally. It may not just be because of a trauma that now all these noises seem to scare them. But just like human beings, some animals are way more sensitive and they
yeah.
feel everything in their environment. Okay. It can also mean that they're very fearful. If they're fearful of thunderstorms, you might see a pattern where they are fearful of other things. And in a situation that like that, what we want to do is work on that level of emotional fear, but we also would want to treat the kidneys. Kidneys are the organ that hold fear. Okay.
Oh,
So
interesting.
again, things aren't disconnected. When we look at it holistically, we're looking at the emotions, we're looking at the physical, the physiology, we're looking at the environment. But let's take another situation. Let's say an animal is really aggressive. They have aggressive tendencies. And other than that, they seem normal, meaning the owner doesn't see any other issues. That just happens to happen in all these situations and it keeps happening more. Well, we need to look at fear again. We need to look at fear, aggression, but we want to look at the liver. The liver is where anger is stored, which is related to aggression. So that certainly could have a root in maybe being in an abusive situation where they were constantly fearing for their life and the only thing they know to do is
Yeah.
react. So we look at the whole animal and then we connect the dots and support them from all angles to really get a hold of what's going on so that this animal doesn't end up having to be put down because it
Right.
attacked somebody or it bit a child or it did something at the dog park or it did something on a walk and the owner can't control it even if it's on a leash. So these are all major signals, major messages
Yeah.
from the animal that we need to look at, even if it doesn't look like there's a physiological problem. Like labs are fine, meaning their lab work is fine, blood work is
Yeah.
good if you're even doing that. But you need to look at the emotional component and not just think that, well, that's see, there again, that's just a dog. Dogs do that. No, an imbalanced dog will do that, but they're asking for help. They're asking,
Yeah.
they want to be in balance. That's their natural state. All of our natural states are harmony and balance.
Yeah, so in that case, or would somebody need to reach out to you and you could work with them? Because it sounds like, let's say I had an aggressive dog and I thought, oh, there's something going on here. Let me get to the bottom of this. You can work with that long distance, right? It doesn't matter where the person lives.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is, all of our consultations are by phone or Zoom. I mean, most of the people I work with are out of state. I mean, I work with people all over. But we also in the store, we have an aggression blend. I try to have enough products in there to where if somebody wants to just go and try one product for one thing, maybe they're having a digestive issue, maybe they're having an aggressive issue, maybe they're having a fear issue. They can use those blends in that particular area and watch for the changes. Ideally, we want to look at the whole animal, do a consultation and set them up on a protocol. But there's a lot that can be done just with an individual blend and we have those most common things. are in the store. Even for like immunity, just building the immune system. We have immunity and vitality. Ideally, that's used with organ support and a flower essence. You don't have to go that route, although that's the ideal. But you could work with a symptom and buy the remedy, and maybe later say, "Hey, this works. I'd like to do a consultation to figure out how I can support my animal in all regards, not just the upset tummy."
Yeah. That's great. So you have so many blends for so many different things. And I know you have bundles, Debbie, too. So you have like your detox, right? And then there's a reset and then there's a thrive, I believe, just for like ongoing
There's
maintenance.
Yes, there's the foundational protocol is like the foundational. That's what you want to do if you're not sure what to do, but you want to do something more comprehensive. You really want to get the animal straightened out. That is 3 protocols in one package: detox and purify, reset and restore, maintain and thrive. So that's a 3-month protocol, and that generally takes care of quite a bit. You'll definitely notice changes. And then what you wanna do from there is just keep them maintained, not with the whole protocol, but with the last piece of it, which is the maintain and thrive.
I see.
Ongoing as a preventative and as a, reset, keep that immune system strong.
Yeah. And it's just a couple
Keep them
drops in their
balanced.
food, right? Yeah. Just a couple drops like in
Very
the,
easy.
yeah. Yeah. And I remember, they seemed like the dog, like Willow, I had her on on a particular blend for her. And, it was easy because she just, as long when she was
They're
eating. But I'm just
tasteless.
saying the dogs will eat it. Like, you don't have to worry. Sometimes with, this horrible medicine that the regular allopathic vet will give you, like, it's a struggle to try to get it into the animal, but your blends are so
Absolutely.
easy. You just put them in the food and
They're
yeah.
they're very easy. They're just literally a couple drops depending on what the blend is. They're tasteless. There's
Yeah.
no alcohol even, so the dog isn't, or the animal is not like they generally. I have animals that know when they're getting their drops, and they get very excited. They love their
Aw.
drops.
Aw.
And
That's
then I have
awesome.
clients that like to just open their mouth and drop it in. That's the rare ones, but I have people that they wanna actually give their dogs or cats the drops. So, that's the
Yeah.
other option is.
Awesome. So, Debbie, with summer coming up, I want to get just one more question in here because I know we're coming down on our time together. But with summer coming up, is there anything specific that people should be looking out for, especially with their cats or dogs? Fleas, heartworm, are they at risk for anything this time of year more than any other time?
I would say, I mean, because of there's more activity outdoors, literally in the insect life, but the animals are outdoors more. So there tends to
Yeah.
be a lot more insects, fleas, ticks,
Yeah.
mosquitoes, and those types of things. So what you want to do is the main thing with fleas and ticks is to already have a strong immune system.
Yeah.
The animals will be the fleas and ticks will be less attractive to animals that have a strong immune system because their skin, their fur, their odor is much less attractive to insects coming in. So that's our first line of defense. And the blog post on natural flea and tick prevention explains how the body works from the inside out. Um, but there's the DIY spray that you can use for going outdoors that's going to help with all of the insects. And that's one thing that you can do is you can make your spray as long as there's not already a problem. You're going to need to do more than
Right.
that. So, you do need to be more conscious and aware if you're going to be outdoors, which everybody is, and the animals need
Yeah.
to be outdoors. They need to get their feet on the ground.
Yeah.
They need outdoor time. You do wanna be more aware of the little insects and checking, especially if you're seeing biting and scratching and more, you know, scratching.
Yeah.
You wanna get a hold of these things
Yeah.
before they
Awesome.
get worse.
Yeah, awesome. So it's happytails.tips. I'm going to go look at that blog as soon as we're finished with this interview, Debbie, because I'm going to see if I have a lot of essential oils. Hopefully, I have the right ones on hand.
Sure.
But I'm going to start putting that together for Charlotte. But I'm definitely going to check out that article. Is there anything else you want to share today before we end our interview?
I think that's it. I think we've covered a lot, again, a lot to
Awesome.
digest, and, just it's about awareness and becoming
Yeah.
aware of how we can truly be our pet's greatest caregiver.
Yeah.
It all starts at home.
Yes, it does. And it's just amazing to me how many parallels there are. As you were talking, I'm thinking just the immune system, like with humans. I mean, the stronger your immune system, the less prone we are to unwanted bugs, bugs in quotation, like viruses and things like that, because they can't
Absolutely.
thrive in a healthy body. So,
Yes, our
it's,
animals are the same.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty amazing. Well, Debbie, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to our next interview because you are one of my recurring guests and are my animal expert here. But thank you so much for taking the time out to educate us on how to best take care of our animals so they can live longer,
Of
healthier, and
course.
happier lives.
Of course, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you too, Daria.
All right, we'll see you soon. Take
Thank you.
care.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Dr. Liz. I just want to tell you how amazing and easy it was to work with Daria on my book. You see, I've had a book for a while, been sitting on my desk, sitting on my computer. Maybe you might be able to relate to that. And I didn't know what to do, how to take it to the next step, how to make it look polished and edited and easy and useful for my readers. Met with Daria. We had some great conversations. She learned my voice, my goal, my style, and she was able to edit and give me feedback on how to make my message clearer, more focused, polished, and it worked. I have a book. In fact, I have a book and a workbook that she's edited for me and guided me along the pathway. So if you're maybe a little bit like me, that you have a book or you have an idea and you haven't known where to take it, how to take it to the next stage, reach out to Daria. She's a game changer and she's really easy to work with and takes great pride in her work as well. So join me in the publish author arena. Reach out to Daria. I'm Dr. Liz.